Rolex is the most powerful name in luxury watches. But here's the part nobody talks about. It's owned by a charitable foundation, a non-profit. And that non-profit status is the key to why you can't buy a steel Submariner for less than 3 times the sticker price. In this video, we'll uncover how a charitable foundation built the ultimate scarcity machine. We'll trace the decisions that made Rolex untouchable at retail, and the one move that locked it all in place. But first, we need to understand how a watchmaker from London ended up owning a Swiss non-profit. Rolex dominates roughly a third of the luxury watch market. That's more than any other single brand, and it does it without answering to shareholders or paying full corporate taxes. The foundation structure gives it a massive competitive advantage. The story begins in 1905, when Hans Wilsdorf founded Wilsdorf & Davis in London. He imported Swiss movements and placed them in English cases, selling to jewelers who stamped their own names on the dial. The brand didn't exist yet. In 1908, Wilsdorf registered the name Rolex, chosen to be easily pronounceable in any language and onomatopoeic, like a watch being wound. By 1914, he predicted wristwatches would replace pocket watches entirely. He was right. That same year, Rolex became the first wristwatch to earn a Class A precision certificate from the Kew Observatory. It was a breakthrough that established Rolex as a serious timekeeper, not just a fashion accessory. After World War I, Wilsdorf moved the company to Geneva to escape heavy British taxes on luxury imports and precious metals. That tax move would later become the foundation of Rolex's entire corporate structure. During World War II, Wilsdorf offered to replace watches confiscated from Allied prisoners of war. Over 3,000 watches were sent, but by 1947 only 400 had been paid for. It was a massive goodwill gesture that cost the company dearly. In 1945, after his wife's death, Wilsdorf established the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation. He transferred all his Rolex shares to the foundation, making it the sole owner. But the foundation wouldn't take full control until after his death in 1960. When Wilsdorf died in 1960, the foundation became the permanent owner. Rolex was now a non-profit entity. That meant no shareholders demanding growth, no pressure to maximize profits, and no obligation to disclose anything. The foundation pays a lower tax rate and maintains strict financial secrecy. In 2011, a Rolex spokesman refused to provide any evidence of charitable donations, sparking a transparency scandal. The foundation is known to have gifted 2 housing buildings in Geneva, but that's about all we know. With no shareholders to satisfy, Rolex could focus on one thing: controlling supply. And that's exactly what it did. The company began to deliberately restrict production of its most popular models, especially steel sports watches. In 2004, Rolex acquired its movement supplier Aigler, bringing production in-house. This vertical integration gave Rolex total control over how many watches it made and how many it didn't make. By the 2010 seconds, demand for steel Submariners and Daytonas exploded. But Rolex didn't increase production to match. Instead, it kept output flat, creating a permanent shortage that turned wait lists into years-long ordeals. The result? A massive grain market. Scalpers buy watches at retail and resell them for 2 to 3 times the price. A steel Daytona that retails for around $14,000 can sell for $40,000 on the secondary market. That's the power of artificial scarcity. The gray market thrives because Rolex refuses to increase supply. It's a deliberate strategy. By keeping demand far above supply, Rolex maintains its aura of exclusivity and keeps prices high on the secondary market, which reinforces the brand's desirability. But the waitlist system itself is a tool of control. Authorized dealers receive limited allocations and are told exactly who can buy. Many dealers reserve the most desirable models for VIP customers who buy other watches first, creating a loyalty loop. In 2023, Rolex took control even further by acquiring its largest retail partner, Bucherer. Now Rolex owns the point of sale for a significant chunk of its distribution. It can decide exactly which watches go where. This acquisition is the logical endpoint of a century-long strategy: total vertical integration. Rolex controls the movement, the case, the dial, the distribution, and now the retail store. There is no room for independent dealers to deviate from the script. The foundation structure is the ultimate moat. Because Rolex doesn't need to maximize profit, it can prioritize brand value over sales volume. It can leave money on the table and let the gray market capture that excess demand because the brand's prestige is worth more than a few extra sales. Compare this to a public company. If Rolex were listed, shareholders would demand higher production to capture the gray market premium. But the Foundation has no shareholders. It can afford to say no to billions in easy revenue. The Foundation's secrecy also protects the brand. No one knows exactly how many watches Rolex makes each year. Estimates range from 800,000 to 1 million, but without transparency, the scarcity narrative is unassailable. The Tudor brand, launched in 1946, is a perfect example of this strategy. Tudor offers Rolex reliability at a lower price using external movements. It captures customers who can't afford Rolex, without diluting the parent brand. But even Tudor is now subject to the same scarcity dynamics. As Rolex becomes harder to buy, Tudor becomes the next best thing, and its prices rise too. The scarcity machine trickles down. So what's the lesson? The most powerful business model isn't about selling the most. It's about controlling the narrative of scarcity. Rolex doesn't sell watches. It sells the idea that you can't have one. And that's why a non-profit foundation is the perfect owner. It has no reason to break the spell. The $10 billion non-profit that owns Rolex will never let you buy a steel Submariner at retail. And that's exactly the point.